to do with like trying to become a developer evangelist, things like that. And also, I'm a Coding Dojo alumni. I was part of the second ever cohort. So we have a lot in common. So cool. Yeah, I should put that in my about me, but but yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And then, so today we're going to talk a little bit about responsive design. So I'm sure a lot of you guys know about responsive design, assuming that you've used HTML, CSS. It's really like, it's really about just making everything look good on all screen sizes, and also sharing your view code, as well as being adaptable to kind of whatever the screen throws at you. And that's really cool. Like, we have a solution for that on the web, and so we can use media queries. We have like the bootstrap query. We have all these cool things that we use to make it a lot easier for us to make designs that work on all different devices. And I think that that's really cool, and that's one thing that I love on the web. So if you're unfamiliar with responsive design, we're going to come up with some principles here. So these aren't like all the principles, but these are the ones that I think are really important. So we have breakpoints. You don't just smash things onto the side like that. You actually like move things down so everything has its place and it looks good. We have relative units. So basically, don't make things 100% of the width instead of like 800, and then like it just overflows, and nobody likes that. It's pretty ugly, right? We also have min and max width. So the idea behind this one is like on a smaller screen, you don't have a lot of area to work with. So you want to take up as much as you can, but if it's too big, like you don't want to just take up the full width on like, let's say like a widescreen desktop, but maybe you do on a phone, right? So those are kind of like the basic principles of responsive design, along with hiding elements and components. Like you see in this picture, the 3 screens, like they don't contain all the same content, and sometimes, and that's okay. Like you have to give the user basically the most important thing that they need to see. So as you can see here, there's some stuff about sensitive here, but not in the second one. There's some stuff about presidential candidates on this one, and not in the mobile one. And that's fine. Like you need to give a different experience for the user. It doesn't necessarily mean give them all the same experience, but giving them a good experience as best as you can for that device. So why are we talking about responsive design? It works so good on the web. And we have all these solutions for them, right? So we have media queries, we have percentages, and we have flexbox if you guys like to dive into that stuff. We have min and max widths, and we have display none to hide elements. Like all this stuff is pretty much covered inside of your browser, and it makes it real easy for us. And then we have an abstraction like the bootstrap grid or the flexbox grid. And now I want to talk about React Native. So React Native, if you guys aren't familiar with React Native, how many of you are familiar with React at least? Familiar with React? A couple of you guys. All right, so React is a JavaScript library that basically makes it easy to make components and things like that. I mean, not quite so much Angular. Angular is more of a framework. It's more just a view library. But with this library, it's really easy to make components and like make web apps, single-page web apps, things like that. And it has a lot of other cool things that come with it. But not only have they released a framework for the web, they've also released a framework for iPhone and Android. So on iPhone and Android, normally what you do is, if you guys are familiar with Cordova, it's usually just like you take a web page, you just take the small version, and you put it on Cordova, like using like maybe you use like Ionic, or maybe you use like React or something. jQuery Mobile, you guys might be familiar with those. And those apps are really slow because essentially you're just running a browser. You're not really running a native app. You're running all your code inside of a browser. And while phones have been getting better and they've been getting more performant, that's not necessarily like the best option that we have. So you can also make a native app, but if you want to make a native app, you have to learn the native language. So Swift, Objective-C for iOS, and Java for Android. And those are kind of tough because if you want to be multi-platform first day or whatever it is, like it's a lot of overhead just to learn, and they're completely different languages as well. So they're not exactly easy for everybody to use. But React Native makes that easy. What React Native essentially does is you write React code looking very similar to like the web version of React. Looks kind of similar like HTML or XML or something like that. And you can actually take this stuff and you can call native components. So if I call a view in React Native, I call a real view in iOS. If I call a view in if I call a text in React Native, you call a real text in iOS, or Android for that matter. And And so it works right now, and then it also includes a small subset of CSS, including Flexbox. So it doesn't have the full CSS, but it has like a good part of it that you get a lot of things done. So you can style things like color, just using like background color or like something like that. And it's cross-platform on phone and tablet. So right now it works mainly for phone and tablet, but we have third-party support and probably soon native support or first-party support for things like TV and desktop. So if you want to make a desktop app, if you want to make a TV app, if you want to make an Apple Watch app or something like that, like you can totally use React Native and just kind of get all this stuff done. But see, just as you can see the variety of sizes on the screens that React Native is going to, you can see that on the web. But we don't have like a super easy way to do responsive design on the web, or I'm sorry, on React Native yet. And then the motto of React Native is to learn once, write anywhere. So that means you write an iPhone app separately from when you write your Android app. A lot of the code can be similar, but there will be some code that's a little bit different per platform. And same thing for iPhone and iPad. You want to make it, very similar. You can use a lot of similar code, but a little bit different for each platform. I just kind of wanted to try to do an experiment to see what would happen if we did make something, kind of using more of the same code and making it more work like a bootstrap grid or something like that. So we're going to go through some examples of, another slide on what we have in React Native. So for breakpoints, what's the solution? We have nothing really. Relative units, we can use Flexbox. Min, max width, we don't have anything. Hiding elements, we don't really have anything either. So there's a lot of work to be done in React Native from the core library standpoint, but luckily we have certain things that we can use that can make a lot of things easier for us. So we have Flexbox, which is really great for positioning. I don't know how many of you guys actually use Flexbox, but Flexbox is a new CSS way to do layouts. It's not the absolute easiest, but I think that it's going to be the way. So if you need to vertically center something, if you need to stretch something, put space around, it's really great. But yeah, Flexbox is missing things like percentages. So React Native style sheets are missing things like percentages. So you can't just go 100% width or 80% width. You have to kind of specify it all in pixels or in Flex, which is kind of weird. So then that uses ratios. Anyways, let's get to some code examples. Sound good? Okay, so I will be kind of switching back and forth from presentation to code a little bit, so you're just going to have to please bear with me. So here we have So this is our first code example right here, and this is how it looks. As you can see, we have one side right here, iPhone, and we have the other side over there, iPad. Right? So right now it just looks kind of like a big phone app, and it's kind of cutting things off. So this is using the exact same code base, and it's kind of crappy. So you don't want to ship something on iPhone and then ship it on iPad and say oh yeah, this is my app, and people on the iPad are gonna be like, oh, this is kind of ugly, right? So we want to try to get these out of the way. So the first thing we can do is we can kind of try to build a different we can try to build a different layout using JavaScript. So what we do get from React Native, and I'm sorry if this is a little too technical or whatever, but we have the dimensions. We have on layout, and we have plain old JavaScript. So dimensions can help us with math. That gets us the screen dimensions. On layout can help us get the component dimensions, and we have things like resize mode, kind of your background image on your divs. So if you want to put a background image, you have to cover, stretch, contain, things like that. And we have JavaScript, which is a full-on language, so we can do anything with the language, right? It's JavaScript's way better than CSS, right? So. No, sorry if you guys don't know CSS. But so now let's go into steps 2 and 3. So sorry if I'm going a little fast. Does anybody want me to slow down by any chance? All right. Just making sure. So we're going to check out example 2. So, in effort to save time, I'm not going to actually live code anything in front of you guys, but I have some code and I'll kind of walk through it. So this is essentially what. No, yeah, I was using it, but my laptop kept slipping, and I'm like, oh, my laptop's gonna die. So like,
You want a chair?
no, I'm good. So yeah, so this is essentially what a React component looks like. So you'll have like a scroll view, which helps us scroll, and we have text, we have views. Views are kind of like divs. Text is kind of like a p tag. You guys, an image block is a custom component. If you guys are familiar with custom components from like an Angular derivative, directives, directives, and things like that. So that's basically what we have rendered out on the screen or in the one I showed you before. So that's it. Like, it's not too hard, right? Like, you can get like a pretty decent native app just using JavaScript, you know, out the box like that. And then also, if you see below, so we have these JSON objects, but what do they look like? They look exactly like CSS. So we have flexbox 1, background color white, padding top 3. You know, nothing to be scared of here, guys.
So React, are you pretty much taking CSS and just doing all JavaScript?
No, so what they have is they have what's called, you can look it up on GitHub, Facebook CSS, I believe it's called, the repo. They build it natively inside, like I think they write the one for iOS and C, and I'm guessing the one in Android and Java. And so style sheet is not quite the same as CSS. It's a little bit different, it's a lot less. So for instance, like I said, no support for percentages, things like that yet. But it gets, you know, most of the job done. So that's essentially what, it's not necessarily, so you're sending this object through to style sheet, which understands, you know, how to make the styles appear on the screen. So it's not quite CSS, but it's styling in JavaScript.
Okay, so it's it like takes some of the work out of CSS, but you still have to do something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and now we go to step 2 here. And I want to show you guys what that looks like first. So before we used to have that big phone app, if you guys remember? So it was like a big phone app, and then now we have this nicer phone app, and we have this decent looking iPad app. That's not great, it's not perfect, but at least like we've got it in a space where it looks a lot better on the iPad because we have the 4 columns, right? And so how are we doing that? Well, I'm doing something like very, very simple, like I'm just using a statement. And so I can get the width using the dimensions API I referred to. And if it's over 768, which is iPad size, if you're familiar with media queries, you can return 2 different things. So that's one way to use the same kind of code to get to the result that we have. And I'm going to go to step 3. And all this code is on my GitHub. So if you guys want to download it, play around with it, and see it, definitely can. I will link you guys afterwards.
Is this GCO? Is that like a GitHub thing?
Oh no, it's an alias. It's a git checkout. So that's all it is.
Git channel?
Git checkout.
Checkout?
Checkout. So you know you check out a branch. Like I just have a shortcut GCO. If you guys, I'll take you guys have it. Yeah. So now in step 3, actually let me show you. Sorry, step 2 first. What that looked like. So this is what step 2 looks like for the image component. It's like a very basic view, and you see image. We have an image tag here too, just like just like HTML. But we were getting this iPad view with this weird kind of block, this padding border right here, and we don't like that. So in step 3, we had a little bit more, but it's not too much. Basic thing that we did was we're using this onLayout method. And so onLayout can get us is we can get the height of the component, or sorry, the width of the component, and I want the images to be square, so I'm going to say height equal to width, and then React has this idea of state. So inside the state, you can just change things, and it just re-renders right away, and you don't really notice it too much. And now we have this without all the white space in it. So now you have like 2 apps for iPhone, iPad, and I haven't tested on Android, but it should work on Android the exact same way. So now it looks a lot better, right? But the code's still kind of messy, right? You know, like we're still using if statements everywhere. That's not exactly what we're doing. Any questions, by the way? Like I'm totally free. Some of you look like perplexed, so I don't want to like leave you guys hanging. Okay, we'll wait till after. All right. Okay. Okay, so that's basically, I know it's kind of a lot to throw at you guys, but, and then we have another thing, one of the other principles for responsive design was hiding components. So on CSS, we have display none. So you just don't want something to show up, boom, display none, hides it, display block, boom, it comes back, right? Well, we don't have that in React Native, unfortunately. We don't have a display property, but we have return null. Because React is just JavaScript, you can just return the component null, and it just won't show up on the screen. So that's basically the way that we're gonna go ahead and hide, show and hide components. So we're all familiar with what we currently have, and then we're gonna go over to just hit checkout in a few minutes. And then yeah. Also, this runs from like a server, just like a website, but oh, there it is. Now reloaded. So, cool. So I added this little component here. It's really tiny. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says one like, right? Kind of like an Instagram page or something. One like, but it doesn't show up here on the other side. And that's because we want to be able to hide components, show and hide components based on things like width, right? So I have a likes.js here. And so basic, simple stuff. If the width is over a certain dimension, you return it. If not, you return null. Right? So basically, if it's on small screen, return the likes component. If it's not, return nothing. So now we kind of have all the basic building blocks we need to do like responsive design. So we know that it's not that hard to do to get the dimensions. We know that it's not that hard to set widths. We know that it's not that hard to show and hide things like that. So why can't we make an app that works on phone and iPad using or at least a view sharing a lot of similar code in the same code base? Okay. So we're gonna go into step 5. This is the last step. So. And it looks exactly the same, but I want to take a look at the code. So there's no difference in the way that I changed it, but I changed the way that the code works. So now if you look at it, there's no more if statements. There's no more if this screen is this big, if this screen is that big. I've actually made something similar to like Bootstrap Tree. And so you just have the scroll boot, you have a row component, and you have a column component. Similar. So I'm sure everybody's learned Bootstrap right in here, yeah? So you Bootstrap, you have your class row, you have your class container, you have your class column, and you can do that. And then you can specify. So on the small screen, it'd be like 12, so that's like full screen. If you want to be on the medium screen 3, that's 1/4. And that's basically the code that we have that gets us these views, and it's a lot less code, a lot easier. And so that was kind of just my experimentation, and so like learning about React Native, learning about responsive design, and learning how to kind of make the code easy to use. And then it's on NPM if anybody wants to use React Native and then use my library. NPM install, and it should work. If it doesn't, you can contact me, or you can write a pull request and you can get yourself some open source credit. But but if not, you can definitely put an issue up and I'll try to answer it. So yeah. So what did we learn? So what I learned at least from making a responsive grid for React Native. Well, it's great. You have Bootstrap-like components. It's really, really easy to learn, and it's great for layouts. Like, if you want to make something a certain amount of columns, you want to do something else, like on different screens, like 1 column on the phone, 3 columns on the phone, 3 columns on a tablet. It's great. It's not so great for conditional styling. So, like, let's say I can do it. It's good for hiding stuff. Like, I have support for hiding, but I don't have support for if it's on the phone, be this color, or if it's on the tablet, be this color. So that's something we don't have, and it's good for layouts, but not necessarily great for fine grained control of all your stuff. So yeah, we already went to code example step 5. So what's the catch? It sounds pretty good. Why wouldn't everybody use this? Well, this is just a proof of concept, mainly to myself. There are some performance issues on layout. So when you use this on layout method, you have to wait for something else to lay out first, and then you can calculate how big something has to be inside of it. And because of that, it's kind of slow. I mean, it's not insanely slow. As you can see, it loads relatively fast, but it's it's not like as fast as like straight like web page load, like a regular React Native view. Nested grids can be pretty slow if you nest a lot of them together. Assuming you don't have like a ton of content inside, like it's really noticeable. But if you have a lot of content, or if you have like pictures, or if you have not a lot of borders and things like that, it doesn't look as bad. And also animations can kind of help. I know it's kind of a cop out, but animations can definitely help. Kind of like have that transition to make things look great. And currently, it only works in portrait orientation, so like only like the vertical way, not the landscape one yet. I'm working on that. So when I get a good thing for that, I'll definitely post that up, and hopefully maybe some of you guys can use it. And yeah, under the hood, I'm gonna actually skip that portion for now. And then conclusion is, responsive design does have benefits even on native, and because of things like React Native, we are allowed this similar language that we can talk to everybody, or that Android and iPhone developers can talk to each other with, and we can have this similar layout method that we can all talk to each other with as well. Responsive layouts can be complex, but using a responsive grid can make them easier. And I swear I'm not just trying to promote my thing, like explore responsive design. And yeah, and the last thing is I think the React Native APIs could do more. Once they get support for percentages and things like that, I can see this being a lot faster, because then we won't need to use things like on layout if the native modules kind of like do it all themselves. So if React Native had support for like the native layouts, like percentage-wise, like we could eliminate a lot of performance issues, and I think that a lot more people would use this in production, hopefully. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for listening, guys. My name, like I said, my name is Derek Tor. You can find me on Twitter, Derek Tor, my GitHub, RunDMT. Email, derekmtor@gmail.com. I could just leave this up there. And if anybody has any questions, I know like that was kind of a lot.